Ah, my dear friends, imagine this. It's the year 1804. America is young, full of excitement, and on the brink of exploring an unknown world. To the west lies vast mystery. Mountains, rivers, dangers, and lands shrouded in secrets. Thomas Jefferson entrusts two brave men with a grand mission, Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. These men are about to change the destiny of America, filling in the blank spaces on the map. This isn't just a journey, it's a legend. Heroes rowing against the currents, climbing mountains, and venturing into the unknown like true adventurers. Are you ready to witness every moment of this epic exploration? Gather round the fire and let's dive deep into history. Now my dear friends, let me introduce you to the two heroes of this great expedition, Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. These two men didn't just explore the vast lands of the West, they redrew America's boundaries and etched their names in history. But who were these brave explorers? What paths in life brought them to this moment? Let's take a closer look at their stories. Meriwether Lewis, a man who understood the spirit of nature, always with his eyes fixed on distant horizons. Born in 1774 in Virginia, he grew up surrounded by the lush forests, raised on the sounds and sights of the wilderness. From a young age, he was eager to explore, to understand, to step into the unknown. When he joined the U.S. Army, his talents were quickly noticed. But the moment that would pull him into his greatest adventure had yet to arrive. Thomas Jefferson. That great leader, then the President of the United States, had a vast vision. He wanted to unlock the secrets of the massive, uncharted lands stretching westward. And the first name that came to mind for this great mission was someone he deeply trusted, Meriwether Lewis. Jefferson didn't just see Lewis as a soldier, but as a man who spoke the language of nature. He trusted Lewis's keen observation skills, his determination. He knew that Lewis wasn't just physically brave, the knowledge he would gather on this expedition would be priceless. Plants, animals, the flow of rivers, the lay of the land. Lewis had a genius for this, but Jefferson also knew that such a journey wasn't to be made alone. Lewis needed a companion. And that's where the name of Lewis's close friend, William Clark, came into play. Clark. Clark was a loyal friend and a strong leader. Their friendship went back years. They had served together in the military, respecting each other's skills deeply. Clark was just as brave and determined as Lewis. They say when Clark rowed across the waters of the Missouri River, even the river bowed to his strength. Clark's skills in map making and his leadership as a military man made him the perfect complement to Lewis. At Jefferson's request, Lewis offered Clark the opportunity to join him on this great journey. And what an offer! It was a true test of their friendship. Clark accepted without hesitation. With the two of them coming together, the expedition began to take shape. Clark wasn't just a friend, he became Lewis's most trusted ally. They weren't just going to draw maps, they were about to open the doors to new worlds. My dear friends, the coming together of these two men was no mere coincidence, it was fate. This journey would test their courage, strengthen their bond, and carve their place into the pages of history. Now, you've seen the story behind the journey, but the real tale was just about to begin. When they set off on their expedition. My dear friends, now let me tell you the deeper story behind this epic journey, the mastermind behind it all. One of America's most visionary leaders, Thomas Jefferson. This great man wasn't just a statesman, he was a dreamer who dared to chase after new worlds, always looking beyond the horizon. It was Jefferson's relentless curiosity about exploration that set the course for Lewis and Clark's fate. It all started with Jefferson's endless fascination with the West. He had a deep passion for the vast lands, the unknown mountains, and the mysterious realms beyond the rivers. When he became president in 1801, America's map was still incomplete. The vast expanse stretching from oceans to mountains was waiting to be explored. Jefferson saw the future of America in these lands, expanding westward, opening new horizons and boldly stepping into the unknown that was his dream. And that dream spurred him into action. But it wasn't just the desire for exploration that kicked off this journey. Oh no, my friends. A series of political and strategic events played a big role in the expedition as well. One major event during Jefferson's presidency in 1803 was the Louisiana Purchase. When France's leader, Napoleon Bonaparte, agreed to sell this massive territory to America, Jefferson wasted no time. This deal, which ended France's presence in North America, completely changed America's fate. The Louisiana Territory stretched from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains, and these lands were now part of America's future. However, no one really knew what these new lands contained. That's why Jefferson decided to launch an expedition to explore, understand, and map these territories. So the goal of the expedition wasn't just to discover unknown lands, but to also figure out the strategic value of this massive acquisition. Jefferson knew that if these lands were properly mapped and their natural resources understood, it would strengthen America both economically and militarily. The flow of rivers, trade routes, and the presence of native tribes, all of these factors would reveal just how valuable the Louisiana Territory truly was. But my dear friends, Jefferson had an even bigger vision. He wasn't content with just expanding America's borders. He dreamed of an America stretching from one ocean to the other. In his mind, there was a grand exploration that would reach the Pacific Ocean. He wanted to find out what lay in the endless lands of the West, where the rivers flowed and where the mountains rose. That's why the ultimate goal of the expedition was to reach the Pacific Ocean, find trade routes, and solidify America's strength in these vast territories. And here is where the trusted name of Meriwether Lewis came to Jefferson's mind. Lewis wasn't just a soldier, he was Jefferson's longtime friend and the perfect man for this monumental task. Jefferson had complete faith in him. But he also knew Lewis would need another brave soul by his side. And that man was William Clark. Together they would embark on a journey that would shape America's future. Jefferson had grand dreams, vast lands at his fingertips, and an uncertain future ahead. This expedition wasn't just about mapping out territories, it was about defining America's destiny. He wasn't just looking westward, he was looking to the future. And that's why the mission he entrusted to Lewis and Clark would become one of the most important explorations in history. The Corps of Discovery team was documenting not only their diplomatic discussions, but also the way of life of the tribes they encountered. The cultures, customs, and lifestyles of the people living in these lands were a great discovery for Lewis and Clark. The Native American tribes' harmony with nature shaped their way of life. The tribes' agriculture, hunting practices, and social structures were meticulously recorded in Lewis's notebook. Their belief systems, respect for nature, and social order deeply impacted the crew. Dear friends, just think about it, these people, who had succeeded in becoming part of nature, had lived on this land for centuries. Their wisdom and nature-compatible lifestyles were a new reality for Lewis and Clark. And so, dear friends, these encounters were not just diplomatic events, they were also moments of two different worlds coming closer together. Lewis and Clark learned something new from each tribe they met, documenting this knowledge step by step as they drew a grand map shaping the American West. In every bend of the river, within the depths of the forests, the lifestyles of the tribes helped them understand the tribes' perspectives on the world. This expedition was not just a geographical journey, but also a cultural exploration. The first contacts with the tribes were among the most significant turning points that determined the course of the expedition. because truly discovering this land meant not only understanding nature but also getting to know the people who lived here. And thus, dear friends, through these encounters, Lewis and Clark began to learn about both America's future and the cultural richness of the indigenous peoples. Ah, my dear friends, the tough journey along the Missouri River was bringing new challenges with every step for the Corps of discovery. Nature showed its power at every opportunity, the rushing waters of the river and the endless forests filled one with both awe and a sense of breathlessness. But despite all these hardships, the exploration team was pressing on with determination. However, the greatest test from nature was still to come: winter. It was 1804, and the days had grown shorter. The banks of the Missouri River had fallen into the grip of a harsh cold. The wind whipped through the snow like a whip, and Lewis and Clark had to make a decision. The team needed to find a safe place to spend the cold winter days. Ah, my friends, it was at this point that they decided to establish Fort Mandan. They would stay safe throughout the winter under the protection of the Mandan people in their territory. The Mandan and Hidatsa tribes had lived in these challenging areas of the Missouri River for centuries. They were used to the tough conditions of nature and didn't hesitate to share their wisdom with the exploration team. Fort Mandan became a home, a refuge for the team. This small fort, built from wooden logs, would protect them from the brutal winds of winter and lay the groundwork for a strong friendship with the Mandan and Hidatsa people. During the dark, cold days of winter, Lewis and Clark's priority was to survive and plan for the rest of the expedition. But dear friends, this winter was not just a time for resting, it was also a time for gathering knowledge and forging diplomatic ties. The relationships with the Mandan and Hidatsa people were crucial for the future of the expedition. The Mandan tribe was known for its hospitality. They welcomed the Corps of discovery warmly and significantly helped them understand the harsh nature of the Missouri River. The Mandans didn't just assist the team, they offered deep insights into their culture and way of life. Ah, just think about it, my friends. As Lewis and Clark roamed the tribe's villages, they witnessed how thousands of years of traditions came together. The Mandans' farming methods, clothing, hunting techniques. All this information was meticulously noted in Lewis's journal. These people had already learned how to live in harmony with nature and tackle challenges. But my dear friends, the friendship formed with the Mandan people brought with it another significant development that would illuminate the path of the Corps of Discovery even further. That winter, a name joined the team that would completely change the course of the expedition: Sacagawea. Ah, Sacagawea. Just hearing her name, you can almost hear the echoes of history. She was a young Shoshone woman living as a captive among the Hidatsa tribe in the Mandan territory. At a young age, she had learned to face the challenges of nature and knew the language of the mountains and rivers. However, dear friends, her role in this expedition went far beyond being a mere guide. Sacagawea became a beacon of hope for Lewis and Clark. She knew the lands west of the Missouri River like the back of her hand and spoke the languages of the tribes. But most importantly, she carried a baby in her arms. This made her not just a maternal figure, but also a symbol of trust. Yes, a baby. With her son on her back throughout the expedition, Sacagawea would become one of the most crucial companions of this exploration team. Dear friends, Sacagawea's joining the team wasn't just about providing guidance. She was like a peace ambassador. Her presence would make a significant difference in the relationships established with other tribes. Just think about it. As they moved westward, the tribes they encountered might have been suspicious of the white men's intentions. But when they saw a woman and a baby with them, they interpreted it as a sign of peace. Sacagawea's husband, Toussaint Charbonneau, also joined the team, but to be honest, my friends, his contributions were not as significant as Sacagawea's. The true leader and guide was Sacagawea. While resting at Fort Mandan during the winter months, Lewis and Clark learned a great deal from Sacagawea. Her knowledge and experiences changed the course of their journey westward. She knew the twists of the river and the mountain passes so well that the team progressed almost as if guided by her hand. Sacagawea became not only a guide but also a friend and advisor. This collaboration during the winter would deepen even further in the remaining part of the expedition. And so, my friends, when those cold winter days at Fort Mandan came to an end, the Corps of Discovery was ready to move forward, not just physically but also spiritually strengthened. They had great mountains and wide rivers ahead of them, but now they had an ally like Sacagawea by their side. This winter was not just a time of rest for the exploration team, it was a time when friendships were strengthened and new hopes were born. When they set out from Fort Mandan, they were more determined than ever, because they knew they had the strength to face nature's challenges and a guiding star with them, Sacagawea. Ah, dear friends, just think about it. The friendships formed and preparations made during those cold winter days shaped the destiny of the rest of the expedition. Ah, my dear friends, all the challenges and obstacles we've faced since the start of our expedition have been like preparations for the biggest test awaiting us. As we journeyed along the Missouri River, none of the natural barriers we encountered could compare to the majesty of the Rocky Mountains. Now, as I tell you this part, close your eyes and let's traverse those tough paths together. It's the year 1805. The Corps of Discovery continued its journey west after leaving Fort Mandan. The trek had become significantly more difficult. The Rocky Mountains loomed ahead like a giant. Their majestic peaks were covered in white snow, and the relentless power of nature was beginning to weigh down on the team. The deep valleys, sharp cliffs, and seemingly impossible passes of the mountains. Oh, my friends, think about it. These mountains were not just a geographical barrier, they were a test of spirit as well. As the Corps of Discovery attempted to cross the Rocky Mountains, they faced challenges like nothing they had experienced before. The ground was sometimes covered in hard snow and sometimes muddy and slippery. The air hit their faces with a sharp cold, making it hard to breathe. The team grew more fatigued each day, and their food supplies were dwindling. Hunger had become a serious issue, almost threatening the entire expedition. Oh, what hunger it was. Empty stomachs, exhausted bodies, some members of the team could barely stand. The fish by the river and the animals in the forests had become beacons of hope, but catching them wasn't easy. Soon, the team's search for food began to feel desperate. At one point, some members had to resort to boiling their leather belts and shoes for nourishment. This hunger was a relentless kind of hunger, my friends, an almost bone-deep kind of hunger. But at that moment of desperation, the real hero of the expedition emerged once again, Sacagawea. Oh, my friends, her wisdom proved to be a lifesaver for the Corps of Discovery. Sacagawea knew how to read the mountains and valleys. She understood nature's signs, plants, wild fruits, roots. Sacagawea transformed everything around her into a source of sustenance. Under her guidance, the team managed to find food. Thanks to her, they were able to survive this tough test posed by nature. Sacagawea's instincts had saved them once more. However, my dear friends, the challenges didn't end there. As the Corps of Discovery navigated the vast slopes of the Rocky Mountains, nature unleashed its full force upon them, and they encountered another key to their survival, the Shoshone tribe. Oh, dear friends, think about it. This was the tribe from which Sacagawea had been forcibly taken from her family years ago, yet still held a deep connection in her heart. Meeting the Shoshone tribe was almost a twist of fate for Sacagawea. A young girl who had been kidnapped years ago was now becoming a bridge to the Discovery team's salvation. The Shoshone tribe was vital for the expedition. They were the only ones who could guide the team through the treacherous passes of the Rocky Mountains. But there was even more at stake. The tribe would provide the horses needed for the journey to continue. The only way to cross those mountains would be with strong, sturdy horses, and the Shoshone tribe was the most reliable ally in that regard. However, my dear friends, acquiring those horses was not easy. Diplomacy and friendship became essential. Sacagawea's connection with her tribe provided a significant advantage during this process. When she reunited with her people, she acted like an envoy between two worlds. When she had an emotional reunion with her brother Camille, the fate of the entire team began to change. The Shoshone tribe established friendly relations with the team after this encounter. Sacagawea's past became a beacon of hope for the future. And oh, my friends, because of these relationships, the Corps of Discovery obtained the horses necessary to navigate the tough passes of the Rocky Mountains. Now think about it, the team had faced every challenge the Rocky Mountains threw at them. Hunger, cold, exhausting paths. Yet, thanks to Sacagawea and the Shoshone tribe, they had overcome these obstacles. They now had new hope. They could continue their journey westward. But this journey was not just a physical test, it was a spiritual one as well. Crossing the Rocky Mountains meant not just traversing a mountain, but also pushing the limits of oneself. Ah, dear friends, during this most challenging period of the expedition, the guidance of Sacagawea and the friendship established with the Shoshone people breathed new life into the Corps of Discovery team. Now, the team was more determined, stronger, and wiser. Having crossed the Rocky Mountains, they left behind nature's most challenging test. But the journey was far from over. Ahead lay new discoveries and new lands. However, they now knew that no matter how tough it got, they wouldn't bow to nature's challenges. Ah, my friends, what a long journey it has been. We overcame challenges, hunger, and the relentless forces of nature to cross the Rocky Mountains. And now one of the toughest phases of our journey is behind us. But there are still vast lands to explore, and the Corps of Discovery team was focused on a new goal, the Pacific Ocean. Ah, that magnificent sea, an endless body of water stretching across America's western borders. It was hard to even imagine, yet these brave people had embarked on a great adventure to see this ocean. And now they were so close to making that dream a reality. It was the year 1805. The team continued to head west, leaving the Rocky Mountains behind. The Columbia River lay ahead, guiding their way. The Columbia River. Every current and wave on that mighty waterway seemed to pull them toward the Pacific Ocean. But my friends, this river wasn't as calm as it looked. The Columbia was filled with dangers. Turbulent currents, floods, and hidden perils lurked along the banks. Every journey on the river was a challenge. The crew often struggled to keep their canoes from smashing into the rocks. The currents tried to sweep them away, and storms unleashed nature's wrath upon them. But in those moments, my friends, nature also started revealing its wonders. As they traveled along the Columbia River, the team documented plant life, animals, and geological formations they had never seen before. The trees lining the riverbanks symbolized the grandeur and beauty of America's wilderness. The birds were unlike any they had encountered before. Ah, just imagine. Those creatures flying around them seemed to come from another world. Everything was new. Everything was worth exploring. Lewis and Clark took notes as naturalists, recording their observations. Together with the rest of the team, they uncovered the previously unknown treasures of those lands. But dear friends, the true pinnacle of this journey was the moment they reached the Pacific Ocean. Yes, when that moment arrived, a profound sense of victory blossomed for the Corps of Discovery team. Following the Columbia River, they finally reached the Pacific shores. When they saw that vast ocean for the first time, they felt the realization of dreams they had held for years. The Pacific Ocean stretched out before them in all its glory. The sound of the waves crashing on the shore was like a reward from nature itself. The ocean stretched endlessly, like a vast emptiness. It's not hard to guess how Lewis and Clark felt at that moment, right, my friends? Celebrating a great achievement, that feeling of victory that touches the soul. They were the brave explorers who first reached the Pacific Ocean in this unknown land of America. When they reached the Pacific shores, they knew they had left the hardest part of the expedition behind them. But that didn't mean new challenges wouldn't arise. Winter was approaching, and the team needed a place to shelter. So they established a new camp they called Fort Clatsop. Ah, my friends, the story of that camp is quite interesting. Fort Clatsop was where the team spent the winter by the Pacific coast. Here, they faced the harshness of winter. The rains never stopped, and storms blew incessantly. However, despite all the challenges of nature, the breathtaking view of the Pacific Ocean continued to mesmerize them every day. During their time at Fort Clatsop, the team continued to make various discoveries. New plants, animals, and encounters with indigenous tribes showcased just how rich and diverse these lands were. However, that winter also brought challenges. Illnesses, particularly colds and rheumatism, took a toll on the team's morale. Surviving in this wet and harsh environment, where rain never ceased, became a new challenge. Yet, my friends, the magnificent view of the Pacific Ocean kept their desire to explore alive. That winter at Fort Clatsop was perhaps one of the most unforgettable periods of the expedition. Lewis, Clark, and the team continued to gather new information along those shores. They recorded their discoveries in their journals and further developed their maps. They described the challenges they faced along the Columbia River, how they dealt with nature's fury, and the peace the vast view of the Pacific Ocean brought them. Dear friends, reaching the Pacific Ocean went down in history as one of the greatest achievements of the Corps of Discovery. This achievement was not just a step in America's westward expansion, but also a significant victory for the human spirit against nature. The winter spent at Fort Clatsop solidified the team's strength and determination. No matter how tough it got, this exploration team didn't give up, didn't tire, and ultimately achieved their dreams. Now, as we remember this great success of the expedition, let's not forget how great a teacher nature is. The dangers of the Columbia River, the rugged slopes of the Rocky Mountains, and the vastness of the Pacific Ocean. All of these were part of the journey of exploration. And here, these brave people carved their names in history in golden letters as they ventured into the unknown lands of America. Ah, my dear friends, we're nearing the end of that great exploration journey. They had reached the Pacific Ocean, and the harsh winter spent at Fort Clatsop was behind them. But like any journey, it was time for the Corps of Discovery to head back home. However, this return wouldn't be just an ordinary trip. They were about to have the chance to see new lands they hadn't explored before and encounter tribes they had yet to meet. It was then that the expedition team made a significant decision. Lewis and Clark would split the team into two groups and take different routes back, allowing them to explore a lot more territory. Oh friends, this was a huge risk. But at the same time, it would turn into an adventure that offered them even more opportunities for discovery. It was 1806, and the expedition team was ready to begin their journey home. But taking just one route back could waste time. So Captains Lewis and Clark decided to part ways. Lewis chose to head north. He would travel toward the lands of the Blackfoot and Nez Perce tribes in Montana, looking to make new discoveries along the way. Clark, on the other hand, planned to follow the Yellowstone River south, aiming to explore a different region. This separation not only introduced them to different tribes, but also allowed them to step into areas of America's wild terrain that had never been explored before. As Lewis's team moved north, they encountered the Blackfoot tribe. Oh friends, this meeting wasn't very peaceful at all. The Blackfoot warriors threatened Lewis's team, leading to a confrontation. After a few tense moments, Lewis and his men emerged victorious, but this event left a deep mark on their spirits. Lewis became more cautious after this incident. However, his desire for discovery couldn't be stopped. Along the way, he took notes on the region's vegetation, wildlife, and geographical features. With every step, he brought to light the unknown faces of America's distant lands. Clark's route offered a different experience. Following the Yellowstone River, Clark, with the help of Sacagawea and other local guides, charted a new course. Along the banks of this river, they connected with tribes they had never encountered before. Oh friends, these meetings were mostly peaceful. The tribes welcomed Clark's team, providing them with food and shelter. Clark was particularly captivated by the beauty of the Yellowstone River. The canyons, waterfalls, and vast meadows. Nothing they had seen before compared to this. The nature of Yellowstone left a profound impression on Clark's soul. He was filled with pride for having explored this natural wonder of America. During this divided journey, Lewis and Clark had the chance to make different observations. While Lewis noted the geological structures, vegetation, and animal species of the northern lands, Clark studied the cultural lives, daily routines, and trade systems of the tribes in the south. They both persevered with great determination, but this challenging journey also tested their strength. Mountains, rivers, harsh weather conditions, and sometimes hunger pushed them to their limits. Yet these brave explorers managed to overcome every obstacle. Friends, Lewis and Clark's observations didn't just stay within the boundaries of America's land. Every tribe they encountered along the way showed them just how vast and diverse these new frontiers were. The lifestyles of the natives and their relationship with nature provided Lewis and Clark with a significant learning opportunity. The Mandan, Hidatsa, Shoshone, and other tribes taught them the language of the land. They observed how the tribes hunted, built shelters, and survived as communities. Ah, friends, this journey was not just an exploration, it was a profound learning experience. The discoveries made during the team's split were a huge step in mapping out the western territories of America. This bold move by Lewis and Clark brought many previously unknown areas of the West to light. These lands would later serve as a foundation for America's expansion. And this return journey showed that the Corps of Discovery was not just an expedition, but a significant step that shaped the future of America. Eventually, my friends, Lewis and Clark reunited. In a moment that signified the nearing end of that great expedition, they came back together and began sharing their final observations. They had both experienced very different things and made unique discoveries. But at that moment, looking into each other's eyes, they understood that this journey was not just a physical one. This expedition had strengthened their spirits, characters, and faith in humanity. Friends, this return journey was a time of reflection for Lewis and Clark. They were no longer just explorers of America's new frontiers, they had become witnesses to it. The power of nature, the wisdom of the natives, and the wild lands of America waiting to be discovered. All of these were present in their observations. At the end of that great exploration journey, they had reached the Pacific Ocean, a dream once thought impossible, and explored the west of America. Now, as they approached the final moments of the expedition, they looked back and realized how significant this journey had been in their lives and in the history of America. Lewis and Clark's expedition symbolized not only the discovery of new lands, but also the determination of the human spirit and the curiosity about nature. And dear friends, one thing was crystal clear in their final observations: these newly discovered lands of America opened the door to endless explorations. Ah, my dear friends, we're nearing the end of a long and challenging journey. The heroes of the Corps of Discovery are on their way back to St. Louis, where it all began, after facing the harsh forces of nature, making peaceful and sometimes tense contacts with native peoples, and gradually exploring lands in America that had never been seen before. This return isn't just the end of a journey. It marks the beginning of a whole new era. For America, the vast, unknown Western territories have now been discovered. But before sharing that great day with you, Let's take a closer look at what the team experienced on their way back to St. Louis.
It's September 1806. The exploration team, heading back towards St. Louis, carries with them the pride of a great victory. They've left all dangers behind, crossed mountains, forded rivers, and reached the Pacific Ocean. Every step had brought new discoveries. As the day arrived when this team, led by Lewis and Clark, would carve their place into the annals of American history, their excitement grew as they approached the town. The people of St. Louis awaited them eagerly, ready to celebrate their triumphant return. Then, silhouettes appeared along the riverbank. These brave explorers, who once set out into the great unknown, were now returning with the success they had achieved.
My dear friends, the team's return wasn't just about a safe journey. Lewis and Clark brought back a treasure trove of maps of the newly discovered lands, samples of plants and animals from nature, diplomatic ties they had established with native peoples, and a wealth of rich experiences. For America, this wasn't just a westward exploration. It was also about scientific research, relationships with nature, and the coming together of different cultures. Lewis took notes during the return journey to study the plant and animal samples they had collected. Previously unseen species revealed the richness of American nature. The beauty of the rivers, valleys, and mountains was now mapped out. Oh, my dear friends, those maps carried the first signs of the great steps to be taken westward in America. These lands, once merely a dream, had now been explored, boundaries established, and put to use for humanity. The team's return was also filled with diplomatic successes. The relationships they built with countless native tribes along the way would lay important foundations for America's future in these new lands. Peace treaties with the natives, the opening of new trade routes, and the detailed documentation of tribal cultural structures, each of these reflected Lewis and Clark's grand vision. The tribes had acknowledged America's presence in this new world and were starting to seek ways to live in peace. Ah, my friends, this was not just a journey, it was a true beginning of America's dream of growth toward the West. The scientific aspects of the expedition should not be overlooked either. Clark documented the lifestyles, plants, hunting techniques, clothing styles, and religious beliefs of the natives they encountered. Many insights learned under Sacagawea's guidance provided a deeper understanding of native cultures. Oh, my friend, Sacagawea's contributions were one of the key elements that crowned the expedition's successes. This young guide not only served as a navigator, but also built bridges between cultures, fostering trust and respect. Thanks to her, the expedition team formed healthy relationships with the native tribes and developed friendships with the true inhabitants of these lands. And finally, that great day arrived. Their return to St. Louis was met with enthusiasm from the crowd. The city's streets turned into a festive celebration. People were eager to learn about the successes of the expedition. Everyone was excited to hear the stories of these brave explorers from the mysterious world of the West. As Lewis and Clark set foot in St. Louis, they were welcomed with immense joy and a sense of victory, alongside their team. Every step of the expedition turned into a legendary tale among the people. This young nation of America was now ready to expand westward, largely thanks to the brave steps of Lewis and Clark. My friends, the expedition's major achievements were not just limited to physical discoveries. Lewis and Clark mapped the West, laying the groundwork for America's future expansion. Their detailed observations, scientific findings, and the diplomatic relationships they built with the natives opened the doors for a new beginning in these lands. The reports they prepared at the end of the expedition turned into guiding documents for future explorers, outlining the difficult yet bountiful territories of the West. The scientific data gathered during the expedition revealed the richness of American nature. Plants, animals, geographical features, and the lives of native peoples. Each of these contributed to a deeper understanding of the West. These achievements brought a new hope to the American people. The vast lands of the West were no longer just a dream. They had become a tangible reality, and it was Lewis and Clark's courage that made this exploration possible. My dear friends, this grand journey of discovery shaped not only America's geography, but also its spirit. The return of that brave team solidified America's yearning for the West. This expedition was the first step toward expanding a nation's borders. Lewis and Clark had discovered not only the lands, but also the future of a nation.
Ah, my dear friends, let's turn our attention now to the lives of the heroes of the expedition after their journey. These are the individuals who explored the West, traversing unknown lands and building friendships with native tribes. But learning how the lives of these great heroes unfolded after the expedition gives us a profound glimpse into their inner worlds. Just as their journey was epic, the lives they led afterward were just as varied, sometimes even tragic.
Let's first look at the story of Meriwether Lewis. Sadly, the end of this great explorer's life was quite tragic, my dear friends. After returning from the expedition, Lewis was appointed governor of the Louisiana Territory as a reward from Jefferson. However, his time as governor didn't go as he had hoped. He struggled to exhibit the leadership he had shown during the expedition. He felt trapped between the responsibilities of his office and political chaos. This young explorer was plagued by ongoing inner turmoil throughout his life. Feelings of inadequacy, fear of failure, and political challenges deeply affected him. These psychological struggles overwhelmed Lewis to the point that, in 1809, he tragically took his own life. At just 35 years old, this hero of the expedition left this world in a tragic manner. While some claim that his death was a murder, most historians believe it was a suicide. Ah, my friends, the hero of a nation departed from this life, a lost soul within. Many believe that despite his achievements during the expedition, Lewis lived without finding his inner peace. Now, when it comes to William Clark, his life unfolded in a longer and brighter manner compared to Lewis's. After the expedition, Clark took on significant roles in the Bureau of Indian Affairs. He maintained relationships with the native tribes he had met during the expedition and even made peace treaties with many of them. Clark celebrated these ties with diplomatic successes on behalf of the U.S. government. However, it's important to remember that while these treaties may have seemed peaceful, they also involved painful realities, such as the displacement of native peoples from their lands and the erosion of their cultural heritage. Clark continued the friendships he had formed with the natives, but this time it was for another cause, and those friendships were not always on equal terms. As Clark progressed in his political career, he also made time for his family. He had adopted the son of Sacagawea, who was a baby during the expedition, as his spiritual son, taking on a fatherly role. Over the years, Clark maintained a solid stance both politically and in his personal life. But my friends, the early loss of Lewis left a deep impact on Clark. He always felt the absence of his closest friend. What began as a journey for the heroes of the expedition shaped into one friend's tragic end and the other's long but lonely life. But dear friends, this great exploration didn't just affect Lewis and Clark, it also deeply influenced America's future. The expedition paved the way for America's westward expansion. The detailed maps and scientific observations made by Lewis and Clark revealed the potential of these unknown western lands. Following this expedition, thousands of migrants began their journey westward. The idea of manifest destiny, or the belief that it was America's fate to expand westward, became an ideology woven into the spirit of the nation. My dear friends, the greatest achievement of the Corps of Discovery was not just the geographical discovery of Western lands, but also gaining deep knowledge of native cultures. Thanks to this exploration, America found the courage to expand westward. Lewis and Clark's scientific findings, their observations of animals and plants, and their diplomatic relationships with native tribes made invaluable contributions to America's political and scientific legacy. And of course, we must never forget Sacagawea in this expedition. Her guidance and relationships with the native peoples were significant factors in the success of the journey. Sacagawea was the unseen hero of the expedition, and without her, the journey would have been much more challenging. Her contributions marked a turning point, not just for this expedition, but also for America's westward expansion. So, my dear friends, as Lewis and Clark's epic journey comes to an end, their legacy lives on. This grand expedition shaped the future of America through their courage and vision. However, it also irrevocably impacted their personal lives. They became the gateway for a nation's westward expansion. But behind that door lay personal dramas, loneliness, and tragedies. Lewis and Clark were not just explorers, they were heroes who shaped the destiny of America. Now, my dear friends, we've reached the end of our story. The incredible journey of the Corps of Discovery taught us to explore not just the geography of America, but also the boundaries of the human spirit. The legacy of Lewis and Clark still lives on in the heart of America. My dear friends, now I'm going to take you back to one of the great moments in history. I'll share the planning, preparations, and behind-the-scenes details of the journey that changed America's fate. Picture this in your mind. It's 1803. A young America, new lands and unknown horizons. But this journey didn't happen suddenly. Behind it were months of detailed planning, extensive preparation, and of course carefully chosen people. Jefferson's grand vision could only take shape with such careful attention. The planning for this expedition began with Jefferson's sharp mind. He didn't just want to map out and explore new lands, but also build relationships with the Native Americans, learn about natural resources, and uncover the deepest secrets of the West. Jefferson knew exactly how this expedition would shape America's future, which is why the tasks he gave Lewis were so wide-ranging. On one hand, they'd be making geographical discoveries, mapping rivers, and finding trade routes. On the other hand, they'd build peaceful relations with native tribes and gather in-depth information about these people. Jefferson's goal wasn't just to explore the West, but also to figure out how America could dominate these new lands. With these big goals in mind, Lewis began working on a nearly flawless plan. The first step was gathering all the supplies for the expedition. And friends, these supplies weren't just simple maps. Lewis was equipped with everything from engineering tools to devices for making astronomical observations. At Jefferson's special request, they even got equipment to preserve animal and plant specimens they collect along the way. This journey wasn't just a geographical expedition, it was a scientific research mission. Every step, every observation would offer clues for America's future. But dear friends, it's not all about the supplies. The real backbone of a great expedition is the team that carries it out. Jefferson didn't just give Lewis the supplies, he made sure he had the most reliable people by his side. And that's when the Corps of Discovery was born. Lewis gathered the most trustworthy and skilled individuals, people with military discipline, intelligence, and courage. But among them was one person who truly left his mark on the history of this expedition, William Clark. Clark, Lewis's greatest supporter, his most loyal friend. Jefferson had total faith in Lewis when he entrusted him with this great task, but he also knew Clark had to be part of this journey. Clark wasn't just a friend, he was a leader. His military experience, map-making skills, and the courage he'd show throughout the expedition would play a huge role in its success. Assembling the team wasn't a simple job. The Corps of Discovery wasn't just a group of a few men. This team brought together America's finest. Soldiers, hunters, scientists, even map makers, each one had a skill to contribute to this enormous task. Under the guidance of Lewis and Clark, they would explore every inch of America's new lands. This team had everything it needed for success: knowledge, courage, and determination. Dear friends, once the meticulous preparations for this expedition were complete, the Corps of Discovery was ready to embark on their great journey. They had their maps, big dreams in their minds, and uncharted lands ahead of them. Each one of them knew this journey would change America's destiny. And now, the first steps were about to be taken on that incredible journey. I bet you're excited to follow every step they took and to understand the challenges they faced, right? Well, let's go back to those moments right before they set off on their adventure. My friends, that unforgettable day, May 14th, 1804. As the sun shone over the calm waters of St. Louis, the Corps of Discovery set out on the mighty currents of the Missouri River. That was the moment, under the leadership of Lewis and Clark, when the great expedition officially began. This journey was not just an exploration, it was a mission that would unlock the gateway to the American West. And my dear friends, I'll take you back to that day as if we were there. Let's travel back in time. When they left St. Louis, everything felt like the beginning of a grand adventure. The young men were filled with excitement about the unknown lands that awaited them. As they passed along the riverbanks, they realized they were on the edge of a new world. The Missouri River would be their main route, guiding them deeper into the heart of America. Lewis and Clark were determined to explore the land along this river. But my friends, like every great adventure, this journey soon became filled with challenges. Though the Missouri River seemed like a path into the depths of American territory, It was just as dangerous as it was promising. Even in the early days of the expedition, the river's wild currents proved to be a tough battle. Rowing against the fierce water with their small boats wore the team down. And here, my friends, the struggle between man and nature was fully on display. Beneath the calm surface, strong and dangerous currents lurked. At times, the team would struggle for hours without making much progress, as if the river itself was pushing them back. But it wasn't just the power of the water they were up against. The shores of the Missouri presented their own challenges, one after another. My friends, those vast swamps, shallow waters, and hidden dangers along the banks. Whenever they tried to stop near the riverbank, they would sometimes be met with swarms of insects or treacherous marshlands. And that wasn't all. They often had to navigate through rocky passages. This is where Clark's leadership truly shined. He kept morale high, pushing the team to overcome every obstacle. Yes, nature was their adversary on this journey, but it was also shaping them. Throughout the expedition, the Missouri River, though often their greatest foe, also became their most important teacher. Every observation made along the river's edge added another piece to their growing body of knowledge. Lewis, with his eyes shining, studied the plants, observed the behavior of animals. The natural wonders fascinated him. My dear friends, just imagine plants never seen before, animals never documented. With every step, they came closer to unraveling nature's mysteries. Lewis's journal was overflowing. This journey wasn't just for America. It opened new doors for science as well. As they continued along the Missouri River, they were captivated by the landscapes they encountered. The endless prairies, towering trees, and untouched wilderness along the banks seemed like pieces of paradise. But these stunning views also hinted at the unknown dangers that lay beneath the surface. For as beautiful as this land was, no one truly knew what kind of perils were hidden within it. With this difficult start, as they struggled to cross the Missouri, the team pushed their physical limits while also being mesmerized by nature's wonders. They were still in the early stages of the journey, but these first experiences showed them just how tough the road ahead would be. Yet, my friends, under the leadership of Lewis and Clark, the team did not give up, nor did they retreat. Despite the wild currents, the swamps, and the challenges of the wilderness, they pressed on. And so, my dear friends, as they ventured deeper into the rugged pathways of the river, every new discovery drew them further into the unknown. Slowly, they began to find their rhythm with nature. The echoes of the river, the whispers of the forest, they became their companions. For they knew this journey wasn't just about discovering new lands for America. It was a testament to man's struggle with the forces of nature. My dear friends, during this grand expedition, as the Corps of Discovery journeyed along the Missouri River, one of their most significant encounters awaited them, the meeting with the true owners of this land, the Native American tribes. While Lewis and Clark wrestled with the power of nature, they were now confronted with one of humanity's most complex aspects, diplomacy. This wasn't just a political game. It was the first major contact between two worlds, a moment when two different cultures came face to face for the first time. It was as if the still waters of the river calmed down to bear witness to this great meeting. It was late July in the year 1804, when the Corps of Discovery had its first major encounter with the Oto tribe. Dear friends, just think about it. Before them stood people who had lived on this land for centuries. The Oto tribe was a people who lived closely with nature, hunting along the banks of the Missouri River. Lewis and Clark approached this meeting with great caution. A single misstep could jeopardize the entire expedition. Yet there was also great excitement because one of Jefferson's important tasks for them was to establish friendships with the indigenous peoples living in these new lands and to understand their way of life. Diplomacy was a key element of this expedition. The discussions with the Oto went quite positively. Lewis carefully presented the gifts he had brought along. Friends, just imagine that moment. The beads, mirrors, and tobacco they offered as gifts were symbols of peace. The tribal leaders respectfully received Lewis's friendly approach. The leader of the Oto tribe welcomed Lewis warmly and expressed his intention to build bridges of friendship with them. The first meeting of these two different cultures unfolded with mutual respect and peace. However, my friends, as they moved further up the river, their relationships with the tribes they encountered wouldn't always be so smooth. In September, the crew came across the Lakota Sioux people. Now this was really important, because the Lakota Sioux were one of the most powerful and warrior-like tribes in the region. Establishing diplomacy with them would not be as easy as it had been with the Oto. The Lakota had maintained their dominance along the Missouri and had asserted their influence over other tribes in the area. Lewis and Clark made great efforts to establish friendly relations with this powerful tribe. However, the Lakota Sioux were closely observing these white men. What were the intentions of these foreigners advancing along the Missouri? This land had been hunted for centuries by their ancestors, and now these newcomers, with maps and exploration gear in hand, were attempting to survey the land as if it belonged to them. This raised suspicions among the Lakota leaders. Diplomacy became challenging here, dear friends. The Lakota leaders expected more from the Corps of Discovery than mere gifts. Although Lewis and Clark attempted to establish friendly relations by presenting gifts, the expectations of the Lakota Sioux were much greater. This is where Clark's determination came into play. Even as tensions rose in the discussions with the Lakota Sioux leader, Clark's diplomatic skills prevented a major conflict. Friends, those moments were filled with tension. The safety of the crew and the continuation of the expedition hinged on the outcome of these diplomatic discussions. Fortunately, both sides managed to avoid a potential conflict and continued on their way. However, this encounter had once again shown them how careful they needed to be in their relations with the natives.